Comic Book Savant, episode 397. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, I'm going to be doing something I haven't done in a while that I used to have a lot of fun doing, and I want to kind of get back to. We're going to do a fantasy casting of what we might get down the road when and if the Fox Disney deal will go through in casting the MCU's version of the Fantastic Four. I already have another episode in the works where we're going to do the same thing with the X-Men films, and I'll give the reasoning behind my picks and the reason why I picked the particular actors in a moment. But before we get into all that, as always, I'd like to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. If you like my show and you want to find more comic book related podcasts and shows to listen to in your free time, it's definitely the place to go to. I always mention it because I like it because we all came together as podcasts and thought it would be really cool to help cross-promote one another's shows to help grow our audiences, but then give listeners like a one-stop shop where they can go to one page and sample and try and find a lot of shows that they might have a hard time finding on their own. So you can go over to comicspodcast.com. You can find my show and literally hundreds of other podcasts. So you will find some on particular characters, publishers, different genre of comics, so you have a lot to choose from there. So if you have a moment, take a second to stop by the Comics Podcast Network over at comicspodcast.com. Last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to the sponsor for this episode, which is InStockTrades.com. One of the best places to go online when you're looking for collected editions, bound editions, manga, you name it. If it's a bound edition, and that even includes books like Action Comics 1000, where they, because it's an oversized bound edition, they actually will carry those as well. So you can get discounts ranging from 35%, 42% up to 50% off with their deals of the week. If you check their homepage, it updates every Tuesday of every week where they update those deals of the week. They'll spotlight a handful of books. They are discounted 50% off, and that constantly changes and rotates, which is cool. If you're a U.S.-based customer and you place an order $50 or more, you will get free shipping within the U.S., which is an extra little bonus they throw on top of the already great deals that you're getting, saving already. If you're an international listener, you still can get a lot of great deals on the website. They have some of the most competitive international shipping rates around, so definitely it's worth something worth checking out. As well, to still save a bunch of money. I've had a few of my friends that I've met through podcasting and YouTube that are overseas in different countries that have used it and swore by it, that when they do, if it's stuff they can't find locally, they tend to fall back and use in-stock trades, and they rave about it. So definitely I got that from first-hand sources that you can save some money if you're abroad and you're still using the site. That is one of their most valuable options. So definitely don't let that discourage you if you're not here in the States, to get that extra little boost of the free shipping. With all that being said and all that out of the way, let's jump into the meat of this episode, which is fantasy casting. The potential upcoming inevitable Fantastic Four movie that Marvel's going to be doing. Now, this is not an original concept. This has been done for the longest time. I always talk about when I do these episodes, it always gives me a time to go back and credit where it all came from. It originally came from my perspective, as me being a kid, reading the one comic book publication I had for years growing up that has long since, that some of you younger guys that listen to the show podcast, guys and girls that'll listen to, might not have been around when this was in its high publication. It was called Wizard. It was a great magazine. Well, I'm not going to say it was great. It was great to me at the time because it was not many magazines that you could buy go to the like a Walden Books or anything where you would buy magazines and kind of pick up something that spoke to the comic book industry as a whole. Now everything's changed now with the internet and YouTube and so many different outlets and sources. But sometimes I do miss just having that tactile experience of having the magazine in hand. I've always been I've been less of a book reader and I always loved magazines and getting those periodicals that I could go back to collect and, have as a reference point. But Wizard Publication was like really the one and only long-standing comic book publications that was, it was more industry-related publications that were printed, but that was more for industry insiders. This was for the common fan, right before the edge of the internet. And I think a lot of different people that do things online borrow a lot heavily from the traditions that were started in Wizard magazine. And this was one of the things. They would always do fantasy casting. And back in the, I think Wizard was really prominent I can't remember when they started. Let me see if I can look it up online real quick while I'm doing this. I didn't think about doing it beforehand, when it was started and how long it ran. But it did so many cool things. So it ran from July 1991, and the final issue was March 2011. And this was one of the biggest features in the Wizard magazine was the fantasy casting. And when it started back in 1991, it wasn't a ton of comic book movies around, so they did things like fantasy casting. I'll never forget, they did a fantasy casting on the X-Men, and one of the picks that they picked was Jonathan Stewart as Professor Xavier. And then years and years later, when they finally did the movie, he was cast. So a lot of movies that they did fantasy castings on did come true many years later. And he did different things like art contests. Like Nicola Scott really came to the forefront as an artist through one of those contests. Ed McGuinness was another artist that really made his name and got his spotlight by doing winning contests through Wizard magazine that then got the attention of the comic book companies, and then both of their careers take off. Those are two most notable, because I remember they won the contest and they were able to get covers on. They did won a contest, and their artwork was presented on the cover of Wizard magazine. And the one that was funny, because she's made her a huge part of her career drawing Wonder Woman, was a Wonder Woman sketch. And I think Ed McGuinness's was it Hulk? I want to say it was a Hulk picture that got him on the spotlight, and he ended up doing that and many other characters, and they're both still functioning all these years later in the comic book industry based off of Wizard. So it was a fantastic publication for what it was. But this was one of the best features that I loved from Wizard, was the fantasy casting of movies. So when I'm looking at the Fantastic Four and what I would want in a MCU version of the movie, we definitely want something totally different from what we got with Fox, because Fox has just been not had the best track record. They try to reboot the franchise twice with two totally different casts, and the Tim Story movies were decent for their time, but they just were decent. They never, for me, the casting was all over the place, because you had Jessica Alba as Sue Storm. You had Chris Evans, which I thought was good casting, as Johnny Storm. But again, we saw many years later he went on to become Captain America, which was just pitch perfect casting for that character. And later they had Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm, which I didn't think his rendition of the character was bad. It was just an ill-conceived attempt with that last Fantastic Four movie. Less we can say about that, the best. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good either. Maybe it was a step back. It was so many different stories that came out about Josh Trank trying to do. He wanted to do a certain kind of chronicle, kind of discovered footage horror take on the Fantastic Four, which you can see at parts, but then it was cut up and mixed up so much because of studio interference and him not getting along with the studio. It just ended up in the end being a jumbled mess when you watch it. It had potential when you see certain things that Josh Trank said in the beginning on what he wanted to do. You could see touches of it where if it wasn't interfered with or he got along better with the studio, it could have played a lot better than what it did. But it's one of those things, what's done is done. And I'd like to see it in Marvel's hands because it just seemed to, with their characters, even with their movies that I don't like head over heels for. I always thought most of the Marvel movies and the decisions they make, even with the twists and turns and casting decisions, I normally pretty much agree with across the board. And so I would like to see it in their hands because I just think Kevin Feige cares overall, or as being the ultimate overseer of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, would care and make sure it would fit and that it would be more representative of the feel, the original feel that the book gives, and put the right actors in the right place to succeed in the movie and the right people making the movie as well, because that's so important, getting the right people behind the camera as well as in front of the camera as well. Now, when I think about a Fantastic Four movie, the first director that comes to my mind would be Brad Bird, just based on that the original Incredibles movie was the best Fantastic Four movie we ever got. And seeing how Brad Bird came back with the Incredibles 2, though, like I said in my review, I think certain things were recycled from the first movie to the second, just with the gender swap of it being Miss Incredible, or Elastigirl, or Elastigwoman, versus Mr. Incredible. And in the first movie, that some of the certain themes and certain beats were repeated. I still think all in all, he gets that whole family dynamic, and that's what makes The Incredibles so good, that I feel like he would be a great director as well as writer, because we know he directed and wrote both Incredibles movies. So I think he could serve a dual purpose with there, but it would be the fact if he would want to do it. I think, Tomorrowland wasn't the best movie. I've heard a lot of things. I haven't had a chance to see it. I just want to see it based on the things I've heard negative about it. But Brad Bird has, proved himself with the Mission Impossible movie he directed that he could do live action. And I just think this would be a slam dunk for him to do. And I think secretly he would be my first pick to direct and write a Fantastic Four movie if it was me choosing. Another choice for director that I really like the movie he's done is Jake Kasdan. And the Kasdan name from Star Wars fame. He's one of the two sons of I can't remember his first name, his dad's first name. But Jake recently did the Jumanji sequel reboot thing, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, and he had a great what I loved about it was the chemistry between the different characters that they had, that they were all from different backgrounds, and the banter they had between them. The action was solid in the movie. I just liked the overall direction and how he handled that movie. And he could do big action set pieces. He could handle big actors like Jack Black, The Rock, Kevin Hart, and have just that great chemistry and great banter. And they felt like a family, though they were like a group of just various people pulled together in a unique circumstance, and different characters had their different history and different issues with one another. And I felt like it was not many people talked about him as a director in this movie, and there he's directing the sequel for that. That's supposed to be coming up. I don't know if it's coming up 2019 or 2020. I want to say the studio had already set a date, and he was not sure because they were still working on the story, that if they were going to make said date, because he wanted things to be right into place with the story. He's did a great job, and like I said, I feel like he's underrated. He's the one part that I don't hear people talk about with that movie. They're like, it's funny, it was a good movie, it blew people away, and it surpassed my expectations. I wasn't thinking much about the movie when it came out, and it really caught me off guard how good and how much I liked the movie overall. And like I said, I feel like he did a really good job directing the movie, and I think he could do are really good. And he's not a name like Brad Bird, and might have to push back because Brad Bird has, said publicly how he's not a big fan of doing sequels, and he wants to do more original films like Tomorrowland, even though it did not, equate into a hit, that he wanted to do more original, separate type things. I don't know, like, even though he's my first choice, I don't know how receptive he would be going back into the big machine, doing a big corporate movie. So I think Jake is an up and comer in Hollywood, and I think he has the chops because it's because of his father, that he would definitely could do well. And then he has the connections to Disney through his dad with the whole Star Wars brand, and so was it Michael Kasdan? Hold on. I'm horrible with names sometimes, and I don't mean to be. Who's his dad? Lawrence Kasdan, and the other son is Jonathan Kasdan. But like I said, you don't hear about Jake, and I like the fact that he doesn't rest on his dad's name. He did this movie separate, and he did. I really enjoyed it, and even it holds up since it's been out on home video. I've watched Jumanji again, and I feel like he could do a good job given like a Marvel movie. And like I said, how he handled the characters and their dynamics with one another, I feel like he would be a solid choice. And then, last but not least, I would throw Christopher McQuarrie's name in the ring as well. He's done. Trying to see. Christopher McQuarrie, I mean, he's a good writer. He's done Mission Impossible, Fallout, Usual Suspects, Edge of Tomorrow. So he's a good writer. And I've picked a lot of writer-director combos because they were writers first and foremost, and then they came over and started directing. So he's done The Way of the Gun, which was a very underrated movie that he did years ago that I thoroughly enjoyed, with Ryan Phillippe. And I can't remember who else was in the movie. Who was it? Was it Benicio del Toro? I want to say it might be Benicio del Toro was in Way of the Gun, which was a really good movie. Just underrated. It's like a really cool, him and Benicio del Toro. Really good movie. Wrote Juliette Lewis was in it. Taye Diggs. It's a really good action film, like a throwback action film. It just didn't get his props when it came out. It came back way in 2000, and then he wrote a ton of movies, and he didn't direct again until he did Jack Reacher, which I loved. Jack Reacher. I like both films, but he wrote and directed the first one. Then he's gone on to do Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation as a directing, and Fallout, which was a fantastic movie we just got this summer. So I think he's done the back-to-back stuff, and he's written quite a few movies, like with Tom Cruise, because like I said, he's done Valkyrie, Way of the Gun, he's done The Tourist, Jack Reacher, Edge of Tomorrow, Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, The Mummy. He's done a lot of stuff writing wise with Tom Cruise with mixed results. Most of these were more hits than misses. So again, he can cover both sides of writing as well as directing. So that's where him as well as Brad Bird, and just coming off of the last two Mission Impossible movies, we know he can do monster set pieces. And one thing I love about Christopher McQuarrie is just the shots that he did in Mission Impossible Fallout were some of the best, most beautifully shot scenes. The setups of the shots were just fantastic. So, pardon the pun, with the Fantastic Four, we can get some dynamic shots and cool action with him as the director, as well as the writing was solid. Certain dialogue at parts was a little cringeworthy, but you could clean that up. Now, for my choices for writers, definitely, like I said, Brad Bird and Christopher McQuarrie, because they've done both. So they could do both. Even if one didn't want to direct, maybe write the script and the other would direct, that's a win-win, I would feel. But I feel like if either one came on to direct, they would want to write or have some hand in the writing of the screenplay of the film. Now, another name outside of them two that came up for writing is Nicole Perlman. I always go back to Nicole Perlman because she helped write the first script for Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was, though it wasn't my favorite movie, I thought the script was good. And she's done some comics writing with the Guardians of the Galaxy's characters, especially she did a mini-series that I'm reading in trade now. I tried the first issue through Comixology Unlimited, and she did a Gamora mini-series, and I read the first issue, and it blew me away, and I ended up picking up the trade that I had to finish reading so I could review on the YouTube channel. And she just has good writing chops, and she gets it. And I feel like, though, even, she's not a director, she's just, more so just a writer, but I feel like she could pen a solid, script to introduce these characters into the Marvel Universe as a whole, because I thought she did a great job in doing that with the first Guardians movie. Now, getting into the whole casting aspect of this whole situation, I stay traditional. I'm not trying to change the wheel, because I didn't know how I felt about the whole race changing thing of Johnny Storm and the last thing. And, I'm all for seeing African American representation in movies and things like that, me being African American. But Johnny's just always in my head has been classically a Caucasian guy. That was just always, and I've always loved the Fantastic Four. Again, my love has always been team books. So growing up as a kid, Fantastic Four was always a book that I followed. I didn't have a problem with it, and I think he did a great job in the role, but I just think the other cast, like around him, his relationship with Sue, all that was kind of mishandled. He's just a great actor, and I think Michael B. Jordan can excel anywhere and anything you put him in. I just didn't know how I felt about it. So I'm not doing any major, I'm going to put this person in here and all that. I think at times, and I'm not a political person, and I'm not, I just talk about comics from my heart and as a pure fan. So just take it at that thing. Certain times I feel like everyone with the ranting and raving about, the Me Too movement and exclusivity and including all different races, I think it's times and places for it. But certain things and certain representations are just classic as they are, should be represented as such. You can find particular roles that you can race bend and things like that, because yes, we do need more representation, not just for African Americans, but for all races, creed, genders, sexual preferences and all that in all type of films, because that's the world we live in, and all of that needs to be represented in all forms of media, be it in comics, be it in comic cartoons, be it in comic shows, in all of that. But at times I feel like, we're forced to have the responsibility for the whole world in this industry to represent everything, and it comes with time, and it needs to be more of it done, because I don't think it's done enough. But for certain characters in certain films and certain parts, I just feel like should stay where they are, unless they bring in one actor and they just blow you away in their representation. But then where I felt like the biggest mistake with the whole Sue Johnny thing in the last one that Josh Trank did, they didn't put any real writing and explaining it and growing their relationship to show, because they're close. And it didn't seem like they were close in the film at all. And they should have worked on that more. And I feel like if you're going to do that, have the story behind it to support it so you care, and to make the connection as close to the comics as possible. Even if you're doing a little twist, have the story in the back up there to support it. And I feel like certain times when they don't do it, this sloppy and be like, we're going to put this race in here to shake things up, to move, to shake it up. And it's like, no, if you're going to do it, you pick the best actor that, came in and auditioned for the role, but have the story to spotlight and support it properly, so it doesn't look like it's just a publicity stunt to get a name in a particular role to kind of get more butts and seats. So if you're going to do it, I say dedicate the time to do it right and just not throw it in as a side note and side thought. So when I go at my casting, I'm going to go with, for Reed Richards, I'm going to go Andrew Lincoln or Matt Bomer. From Andrew Lincoln we know from The Walking Dead. And Matt Bomer, I always liked Matt from He did a show on the USA Network. He's been in the Magic Mike movies. He just has this look he's the age range I would think you would want for Reed Richards. You don't want to go too old. You don't want to go too young, which I think are kind of the variations they've done before. And I feel like they're powerful actors. Both guys are. Matt Bomer is a little, well, like I said, Andrew Lincoln I think is just a great actor. And I feel like he can sell the intensity that I feel like Reed has. And that he can totally get lost in one-sided. He can get lost in his work. And you can see he could neglect his wife. Though he loves her very much, he could neglect her at the same time. Matt Bonner, I feel like he can be that one-minded, that a work-obsessive type character. But the one thing I feel like he has over Andrew Lincoln is that Reed borders the line of being a prick and then a very loving husband and great father. But just he can't help himself that he's so tied into his work. He doesn't. One thing Matt Bonner has over him that I think that would be his redeeming factor. Matt is very charming on screen. So you can be like, gosh, he's a prick and he doesn't mean to be. But you can see he could sell that little charmingness where you can always see, no matter how infuriated Sue might get with him being over obsessed with work and can be neglectful at times, that you could see that he could pull that charm off, that you can see, well, that's why she always gives in to him and loves him so much. So that dynamic, I feel like he sells a little bit more than Andrew Lincoln. But I'm going to go, it ties into who I pick as Sue on why I think Andrew Lincoln probably would be the front runner for me to do it, because you got to pair him with the right actress. So when I go for Sue Storm, which I felt like they've gotten totally wrong both iterations that Fox did with the movie. Sue is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. If you've really read the Fantastic Four over the years, her powers are just tremendous. And I feel like, think about this powerful individual. She's one of the most powerful individuals in the Marvel Universe, in my opinion. And you have to have a very strong, dynamic woman for that role. I would go with Lauren Cohan to match up with Andrew Lincoln. Because in the comic books, in the original comic books with Fantastic Four, it is a substantial enough age difference between Reed and Sue. Borderline kind of icky, it's kind of icky when you think about it, because he was in college, or in his master's, program in college. So he was clearly in his 20s. And when they originally met, when you think about the original concept of Fantastic Four, she was in high school. So it's somewhere around, let's say, 8 to 10 year difference, because he was in his mid to late 20s when she was still a teenager when they originally met. Not saying that they were involved at that point. It was some years later. But, you want to have that, be able to sell kind of that age difference. So if you age Andrew Lincoln up, which he has done with the beard and the disheveled look and Walking Dead over the years, so you could give him the traditional gray stripe. He could do a little weathered age look where you could sell that, even though they're a little bit closer than age than you would like on screen, he could be aged up appropriately. And I think Matt Bonner is about the proper age range that you would see difference between him and Lauren. Like I said, just do the little sideburns of the gray that are trademark with Reed. That you can kind of sell that, because Lauren can she's relatively young, so she could play that well, and she's definitely played a very strong character, dynamic character over the seasons on The Walking Dead. Her character has really evolved. She's dabbled in some other little stuff here and there in different movies. I hadn't had a chance to see, Mile 22 or 22 Miles, but I heard she did really well in that movie. But just off The Walking Dead, basically, because I've seen her the most on that show, I feel like she's a strong female presence on screen and could demand that respect and be that glue and that backbone to that team that you need, that she could stand up to Reed, but then at the same time love him and be, somewhat submissive to him as a spouse, and then still manage to wrangle in a wild Johnny, which is her brother that she really is close to, and Ben as well. I feel like she could really do that. Another name, because I would love to just see her in movies, and I think she just has a dynamic presence, and she has I think she's a traditional blonde. And this is Jess McCallan. I really have loved her from this past season of Legends of Tomorrow. I feel she has a really good look. I feel like she pops really well on screen, and she's such a BA on Legends of Tomorrow. And she could do some action there. She had some great moments on Legends of Tomorrow with her relationship with Katie Lutz. So she can have a soft side, but at the same time be like tough as nails. And so I really would like to see her cross over to movies. And I think she would be like, she's not the first pick. For most people, they would hear what I'm saying with Lauren Cohan and totally agree. And you would think they probably, she would be more of the get out of the two. But I feel like she could cross over well. And she's done some film, but it was more like in small supporting type roles. But I really think kind of like given this spotlight, she can shine, and she just has I feel like she has a great look to her that would carry over and hold up well to either actor to play Sue. And she has that strength and has that charisma on screen that she sells, that she could be a BA, which you need with Sue. You need that hint of that in there, and I think she can carry that really well. Now, Johnny was a hard one, and I went with three different choices. I went with Kellen Lutz. Kellen is a weird choice because I liked him in the Twilight movies for the most part, and I feel like he has a particular look to him, and I feel like he's reminiscent. Excuse me, he's reminiscent in look, in the way he can be. You could style him in different ways where you could. He's a great cross between the look that you kind of had with Johnny with Chris Evans and kind of the attitude you had with Johnny with Michael B. Jordan. He's a kind of in between. He's done things, but at the same time, he's not a big name. So he's a low key casting, kind of going out on a limb on him. I think. They just try to make him and push him as a star like too quick. He did Expendables 3 and he was decent in that. He did the Legends of Hercules movie, which he just wasn't ready for to be a star of a movie. I feel like this in a supporting role in an ensemble, he could shine. And I felt like he was best as a part of an ensemble in the Twilight movies. And he showed a little charisma and personality, which Johnny has in spades. So I feel like he could be a good low-key pick for Johnny. And I feel like he could still be in that hothead, but then evolve into a more deeper, thoughtful kind of character. Same thing for Liam Hemsworth. I feel like the same things kind of translate over to him. And I'm going to go out on a limb with this one because I loved him in Baby Driver. I didn't like him in the Divergent movies as much. But Ansel Elgort, I felt like he's an up-and-coming star in Hollywood. I feel like he could do a lot. I feel like he has acting chops for days. I feel like out of these three, he's the best actor by leaps and bounds. I feel like the other two need the opportunity more and have more of a look than he has. But I feel like he has the chops to do the dynamic range you would want of the character being a pricky kind of self-absorbed to a more caring, evolved character. He can nail what you want over a course of multiple movies and growing the character to someone you might be like is rough around the edges to be more polished in a character that you would really care for as the series would go on. So he's that linchpin that would be, he had Baby Driver. He's had some stuff here and there, but I think this with the Disney machine could turn and really make him a star coming out of this. This would put the other two get them some more work in Hollywood. I don't think they have the potential to ever become stars headlining franchises. Ansel does. So this could be a good movie, which could help him be a breakout star. So that's why I would look at him in that role to really break out and do something great with it. For Ben Grimm, I racked my brain on that because you would kind of have to do, you would have to have someone from the human scenes be that guy. And I was thinking about it. And I thought about, like, for when he does transform into the Thing, it's going to be primarily CGI. You would want the actor to do the performance. And I thought about the best actor that would give the best performance. And the first and only name that I could really think of is Ben Foster. I just love that guy as an actor. And I'm trying to think about the last movie I saw Ben in, and I think it was Hell or High Water. And he was just such a great, tragic character. And I feel like he could sell that the tragedy of Ben being trapped in this rock body and it being kind of horrific, and then him accepting the responsibility. I feel like he could do a lot, because he's such a great actor. Maybe shooting too high with him to cast him in a role like this in a superhero movie. But if he was open to do it, I feel like he could blow that out the water so much. And I couldn't think of anyone else off the top of my head. I just kept going back to him because I just think he's such a phenomenal actor, and he puts so much of himself into a role. I just think those scenes, especially once he transforms, that he could really have fun and motion capture with it and make it his own. And I could sell him having a love and at points contentious relationship with either guy. Matt Bonner as Reed is hey, you took me in this crazy adventure and now I'm transforming into this monster. And I feel like he could sell that relationship and it helping to push Reed to try to save his friend and cure him. And I feel like he could play well off of either actor in the Reed role with that whole dynamic. For Dr. Doom, I only had one choice, and because this dude is like the ultimate villain on anything right now, and it's Aidan Gillen. If you've watched Game of Thrones and Littlefinger, if you've ever watched The Wire, and he was the councilman, Aidan has a knack. Like, you're gonna see him, you're gonna immediately know he's the bad guy. But the thing I love about Aidan as an actor is that his first role that no one really remembers is him as his councilman on The Wire. That's when I was first introduced to him, and he was like the ultimate good guy. No matter how much the corruption came at him, he was like the stand fast, I'm for the people, I'm doing what's right, no matter what the odds. And then, that kind of came and went, and he played some minor roles. He did, he was a villain in 12 Rounds with John Cena. I remember that, and he was good as a bad guy. He's been in the Maze Runner movies as a kind of a villain. He's kind of been the de facto villain in like these different movies and stuff now. But he really had time to shine in Game of Thrones. And I feel like he would be a phenomenal Dr. Doom, because if you are selling the whole that Victor and Reed had a relationship when they were in school and things, and like this competitive rivalry, and that they could have been somewhat close at a point or friendly, and then it turns. I feel like he does such a great job on, though his intentions are evil at the core, he could sell on screen so well that she could always have you, is he good? Is he bad? And then when he turns, he's like, he's way bad. He has the market on that right now. He just does it. And I feel like he would be awesome as Dr. Doom. In the Marvel, let him loose in the MCU with time and the right writing to develop him with his acting chops. Oh man, and that you use him for movies to come and cross over to different things for the long run. He would be a perfect Dr. Doom. Now, depending what age and what kind of story you go into, you might want to bring Namor into it, because you always have the situation of the love triangle between Reed, Sue, and Namor. And the name that came to mind for me, let me make sure I got this right, because a lot of times I know some of the writers. Jamie Dornan, the guy from the 50 Shades movies. And he has, I hope this doesn't sound, I'm going to say pause, no homo. He has a fantastic physique and body. It's like, my wife is a big 50 Shades fan, and I was like walked in while she was watching the movies, and like he would be working out, like he's jacked, and he has like unless you get someone like Michael Phelps that is a for real like a swimmer that's like in that phenomenal type body's in phenomenal shape. He has that physique that he could play that cockiness that Namor is, and that power aspect. Those the parts of that when she was watching it, I seen of him. He could be cocky, he could be arrogant, he could play that well. Then he has like that body because he's that ripped because he's just in like a Speedo. Namor's just like rocks a Speedo. I mean, he's had different iterations of his costume, but his core costume, like this dude can pull it off appearance wise, and I feel like he can play that jerk, arrogant, I'm a king, I'm royalty type thing well at the same time. So I feel like he would be like a great fit to play a Namor character if you wanted to bring him in. I can't remember what the situation is with the whole rights with Namor, because I know it was something tricky similar to what was going on with like with Hulk, with is the distribution and the different rights to put Namor in a movie or to give him his own movie. So if you wanted to kind of have a brief scene with him in there and could use him over a stretch of movies with cameos till they work out the rights thing and potentially could get him his own movie. And I feel like he could be a good prick, Namor, just from the little I've seen. And then last but not least for my casting, I would throw Alicia Masters in there because I kind of like what they did with Kerry Washington in the Tim Story movies where they brought her in, which, they tied her, she's tied into the Puppet Master, with the Puppet Master being her father, and that she has history with Ben as well as Johnny. And I would go with Christian Bell. I just feel like she could play. I've just seen her do so much lately in different films, like in side parts, and we know she's in Frozen. I never watched Veronica Mars, but like forgetting Sarah Marshall. What was some other stuff that I've seen her in? The Bad Mom movies, especially. What's the other thing? I've seen her in just the commercials. Bad Moms, The Boss. The Boss was another one that I've seen her in. She's done side parts. She's really grown on me because I didn't know her from Veronica Mars because I never got into that show at that time. So I've just known her more recently and her doing like the different commercials and seeing her. And I just kind of love her presence and I love her voice. And I feel like she could be able to take a little bit more serious because she's been kind of light, stiff. She's been doing a lot of different comedy side stuff. I would like to see her be like, I think she could sell the blind aspect of Alicia Masters, and the like caring. And I just think she has that look. And I feel like it would give her something different where she can kind of stretch her bones. And I feel like she can be a very compassionate character. And I feel like with this cast, like she could fit in extremely well. And it's like a low key role. She doesn't have to have a ton of screen time. She has those direct ties with Disney because of Frozen and the other different things that she's done. So I just think it would be a good fit in a minor role. It's not, it would evolve over the course of the movies, of course. And I think she's just a good fit. I just like her presence in film and movies. She just has that look, and I think she could sell that character so well and can do comedic twists to play off, especially if you have her teamed up with a Ben Foster as Ben Grimm, that she could bring some levity because Ben can be a heavy actor with the gravitas he kind of brings to how he puts himself in the roles that she can do she can handle comedic aspects to kind of break it up with the Marvel sense of humor to level that out to be a good balance to his Ben Grimm, and it would play nicely on screen. So that's my cast for a Fantastic Four movie. I don't know if you guys agree or not. Reach out to me and let me know. You can always hit me up via the website. If you go to comicbooksavant.com, it's a contact us link there. You can email me there, or you can always email me directly, comicbooksavant@gmail.com, either or. Just put in the title, whatever episode it is that you're commenting on. So let's say CBS episode, 397 for this one, and just, and say like comments, 397 comments or whatever. And so I know what, episodes you're referring to that you're giving comments on, because I would love to hear what you guys think, what might be your casting. Or you can go to the website, and under this particular episode, you can always comment. It's a comment section on the website under any episodes if you want to let me know your thoughts and feelings on it. Don't forget as well, I do have a YouTube channel. I'm trying to, I finally broke 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Now I'm pushing for 200. I want to see if I can get 200. I'm not I think as last of this recording, I just hit like 120. So that's like 80 more some odd subscribers I need. I want to see if I can try to get 200 to 250 subscribers to the YouTube channel by the end, because we're already midway through September, so I might be asking a lot to try to get that many in that time frame. So I'm going to say by the end of October, I want to try to break. Forget it. We can try to go for 300. Can we get 300 from now until the end of October? Can we do it? So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, please do it. Watch some of the content. I got reviews, movie reviews, TV reviews, trade reviews. So if you haven't, go throw me some support over on YouTube. It's youtube.com/comicbooksavant. Takes you to the page. Click that subscribe button. Watch some videos. Thumbs up it. Smash the like button. Share some of the content out. It helps grow the community. You guys have been so supportive. So hit me up over there on YouTube and check out the content. I think you guys will like it. It's just an extension of what I already do here. Update. If you haven't checked out the gear already, I'll have the links in the description for here. If you go to the website as well, go to the support page. At the very bottom, it has a link to the merchandise store. I got t-shirts from Teespring. I got 2 designs. I had a chance to order my first shirt. I'm waiting for that one to come in the mail. So as soon as I get it in the mail, I'll show it off in one of my upcoming YouTube videos, and I'll post some pictures on social media once I get it, so you guys can kind of see the quality. So if you haven't ordered one yet, I think it's like $23.99 is what it retails for. Again, it helps support the show. You can support the show, showing your love, popping that fresh new t-shirt for Comic Book Savant. Like I said, it's 2 designs. One is the old design of the t-shirt I did years ago, which it has the old Comic Book Savant logo on the backs of the shirt. And then I have the newer design that is the new logo that you see on the art now, like the cover art and all that. That's a shirt that it comes in like 5 different colors, and the logo stuff is on the front of it. And that's the one that I ordered. And I should be getting it sometime this week or next week, I think. I didn't do any rush shipping on it, so I should be getting that in the next week or 2. So like I said, I'll show that off on social media, whatever, once I get it. So if you want to help support the show, do that. Also, don't follow me on social media at Comic Book Savant on Twitter and Instagram. It's a Facebook page, facebook.com/Comic Book Savant. You can follow me all those places. If you want to help support the show as well, I have a Patreon campaign as well. It's patreon.com/Comic Book Savant. If you contribute as little as $1 a month, it goes a long way to help support the show. And you would also, with supporting with $1 a month, you get access to the Comic Book Savant extra episodes. I still do an episode weekly there that is for on the Patreon's only feed. So for as little as $1 a month, you start getting those episodes again. And it's other advantages of being a Patreon as well. Perfect example, the contest I did. I didn't get the response, which I wanted to speak on that too. I felt like I went about that wrong because most of the time people throw contests to kind of try to draw new people in and try to gain subscribers and things like that. And what I learned from it is I don't want to neglect you guys that support the show and that are constantly here in and out. So I said what I learned from it is that, you know, I got a couple of new people, like all in all, and me doing it and promoting it on all different platforms. Out of all I did to promote, I might have gotten a handful on each platform, new subscribers, and they probably are only doing it for the giveaway. So what I'm going to do from now on is I'm not going to promote and not going to try to cross promote it. When I do giveaways, it will only be spoken on the content that I do. I'm not going to try to publicize it to bring in new people. I'm not going to market special, like give away this episode. It's going to be totally random for the diehard. So if you listen all the way to all these episodes and you make it to the end, when I start talking about contests, you're going to be the ones, the diehards are going to, I don't want to neglect the people that have been here for the long term supporting me. What I'm going to do as well, like if you're a Patreon and like when I do throw these contests, if people don't respond in the actual contest, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those things that I have set to give away, and I'm going to go to my Patreons, and I'm going to do a drawing and give that stuff to them for helping support me for being a Patreon. So it is additional benefits other than the things that are outlined there on the site for the different tiers, that I'll do things like that because, you know, those diehard supporters, you guys that listen to all the episodes and make it to the end of them all, and the Patreons, you guys should be the ones that are rewarded because you are the guys that are supporting me the most. So for contests going forward, and I'm going to have some more contests coming up and some more giveaways, because out of the 6 bundles that I did for that contest, I only gave half of them away. So I still have 3 more bundles of comics and trades that I'm going to give away. So that'll be coming down the pike. I'm waiting to get some more stuff in so I can do some more giveaways. So it'll be a lot more giveaways coming between now and the holiday season. So I'm working on that right now. So I will announce more when I have more. But that's everything that I wanted to go over with you guys for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I'll be doing another fantasy casting episode shortly where we're going to tackle the MCU's version of X-Men. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I had a lot more ideas where I had one pick for certain things here. I had a lot of more thoughts and a lot of more fun because I have a huge history with X-Men. Not saying I don't with Fantastic Four, but you know what I mean. And there's a lot more movies to go off of and to trying to have variants on. But that'll be coming down the pike probably within the next month. And I will see you guys next time. And that's all I got for you for this episode of Comic Book Savant. You guys have a good week. I'll see you next week for another episode. You guys take care and have fun. See you soon. Bye.